Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our May board meeting. I will call this meeting to order. We have received regrets from Darlene Forbes. We are sorry, Darlene, that you are not able to join us. Before we begin, I'd like to draw your attention to the cover of our agenda. You will see on the cover, it talks about the importance of mental health and well-being. Sean Booth is pictured there. And I applaud Sean's message that he made to intermediate and secondary students. So Sean is saying, he invited everyone to find their greatness by opening our hearts to others, by showing up for each other as part of our well-being, and for being here for the cause, not the applause. So I commend Shane for that amazing message. And I hope that that stays with us, not just for the 1 week in May or the entire month of May, but for our entire year. I consider that to be very, very important. We will now look at the content of our agenda. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and our schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, we learn, and we live. We will now sing O Canada.
Épopée
des plus brillantes exploits.
God keep our land.
Loyal, sings free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, students. That was very, very inspiring. Today is the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. The Durham District School Board is happy to recognize this day and let our students, our staff, parents, guardians, and community members know that we stand in support with them by raising the 2S LGBTQI pride flag. As a school board, we understand the importance of combating violence and hate against people with diverse sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions. With school communities throughout Durham region, we can continue to do this through education, through discussion, and acceptance. The raising of the pride flag today until the end of June for Pride Month helps us to send a message to everyone that there is no place for discrimination in our schools, community, or workplaces. We stand together in support of eliminating violence and hate towards 2S LGBTQI youth and members of our community. You have an agenda in front of you. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we will move on. You have an agenda in front of you. You've had an opportunity to read that agenda. Could I have a motion to approve it? Thank you, Trustee Templeton. Seconded by Trustee Barnes. All those in favor? Thank you. We have in front of us 5 sets of minutes. 3 of those sets need to be received. 2 sets need to be approved. Could I have one motion to receive and approve those 5 sets of minutes? Making the motion, thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Seconded by Trustee Templeton. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Tonight, I don't think we have community presentations, so we'll move on to Director Marsh to tell us about any ministry memorandums. Director Marsh.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And through you, Chair Morton, happy to provide you with an update in relation to a series of ministry of memos. The first one, though, that I wanted to address is the current situation that we find ourselves in. And the Ministry of Education has said at this point they don't have any new information about a potential return for school. They're continuing to listen to health officials, and currently the provincial numbers as well as the numbers of individuals in ICUs are at a level that they're not comfortable reopening schools at this stage. And so we'll continue to keep you posted if we hear anything differently. Very positive news that came out was in relation to vaccination rollout for children aged 12 to 17 and their families. And the announcement involves that happening first vaccination in June, with the second one, the commitment being that all 12 to 17-year-olds will have the opportunity for the second vaccination prior to the return of school in September. So indeed, that's very positive news. We reached out to Durham Region Health as soon as we heard to offer our support in any way in terms of mobilizing vaccination clinics. They feel that they have an infrastructure currently that will address the demand, and we will keep our families updated. They'll let us know as soon as they're ready to accept registrations. They're getting the infrastructure ready right now for people to go online in that age category, and we will let families know as soon as we hear anything from them. Also wanted to let you know that we've received other information in terms of reopening for September. Included in that, and we'll deal with it more at Ed Finance in terms of specialized COVID funding for next year. But you may recall that initially the Ministry of Education had indicated that we were to plan without any specialized COVID funding. At this point, there will be $6.7 million dedicated to COVID funding for next year. That is in comparison to approximately $23 million that we used this year for COVID planning and funding for special initiatives associated with health and safety. So more to come on that in terms of Ed Finance, but certainly wanted to let you know that that was forthcoming, and we were pleased to get some funding in terms of what September may look like. The Ministry of Education has also provided some direction in terms of secondary schooling, suggesting that it will be potentially quadmestered for all school boards and doing a maximum of 2 courses. We're going to be meeting with the Ministry of Education, especially with the vaccination rollout, which is very positive news. We are hoping that we will actually be able to return to a semestered system with 4 courses. So there will be more coming in terms of information related to that. We may still be looking at a 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. day because of the busing requirements we currently have. So again, there will be more information coming in terms of the busing situation. Did want to say, though, that understand that the pandemic continues to evolve. Very positive news around the vaccinations. And so our commitment right now to families is that in August, when we're given further direction from the Ministry of Education, we will be able to provide more specific information in terms of what schooling will look like in the fall. Also wanted to let you know the Ministry of Education released a memo in relation to a math proficiency test, which teachers who are graduating from faculties of education need to pass in order to be certified as teachers. We have approximately, well, we have 57 staff who are going to be impacted by the math proficiency test. These are people who graduated a year ago, are employees this year, and I want to acknowledge they've done a tremendous job in launching their career during a pandemic as educators. And so we have been in contact with the Ontario College of Teachers around us wanting to ensure that these staff members are able to proceed as employees with the Durham District School Board. And given that the math proficiency test has never been administered before, just want to make sure we're doing everything we can in terms of supporting their transition into the profession. And the last ministry memo I will update you on this evening is that we have received confirmation in terms of funding for summer learning programs. And we're very excited to be able to start planning opportunities for summer learning to occur. We're hoping to focus on a feeling of a camp-like experience for students as they learn, certainly focusing on the joy of learning, and if possible, are hoping to include some outdoor educational activities as part of those summer learning activities. Should the health restrictions be permissible, that we are able to do that. So that is a lot of memos to update you on, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Are there questions for Director Marsh? I see a hand up from Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you. I appreciate that you're attempting to give us information, because parents are starting to ask questions about what the school year is going to look like, and it's helpful to know that there's still much to be determined. So I appreciate you sharing what you have. And I don't really have a question, but I did want to say thank you. So I really appreciate that the school board was being really proactive about potentially opening up the schools for vaccination, to do whatever we can to try to provide some kind of more normal return to school in the fall. I think that that's our only hope, really. And so despite, public health saying we have a handle on it, I actually appreciate the effort and thought that went into that. So thank you for doing that, because it will make a difference in terms of school return. So important that we did it, and important that we're turning our minds to what the fall looks like.
Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Director Marsh. We are fortunate tonight in that we have 2 guests who are going to provide us some questions. I'm hoping that Dylan is here. Are you here, Dylan? Dylan Reynolds? There he is.
Hi, everybody. This is Dylan here from the Greater Toronto area in Pickering tonight.
Hi, Dylan, and welcome back. We look forward to seeing you.
Yes.
You have 2 questions. I'd like you to pose the first question, Dylan. Could you do that, please?
All right. My first question tonight is about remote learning becoming permanent. Over the course of this school year, students have been moving back and forth between in-person learning and distance learning. My concern is, if remote learning becomes permanent, how would that impact students in the DDSB or DDSB, especially at the elementary level?
We will go to Director Marsh for an answer, Dylan. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. So as everybody knows, during this pandemic, we've all had to adopt innovative practices in terms of making things work as best as possible. And I think that most would say that it was not under the most ideal of circumstances, but that we have really striven to make remote learning work for everyone when we've had to for health and safety reasons. I think that there will be significant research done on the impact of remote learning. And so it'll be interesting to see what conclusions are drawn from that research. So Dylan, in terms of something becoming permanent, I'm really not able to comment on that at this point in terms of what the impact would be on Durham. What I can say is that for next year, because we know that we'll still, especially at the elementary level, potentially have concerns around COVID-19 until vaccinations are rolled out at that age, we are offering a virtual school for next year in response to a health and safety concern.
Yes, and my second question tonight is, earlier this year in February, I asked a question on bell time at the secondary level, but since then, high school students at Pine Ridge Secondary School and across your region have been wondering, what will schedules and start and end times look like for students when school resumes in September of 2021?
Thank you for that question, Dylan. And we will go back to Director Marsh.
So educators tend to be planners and type A personalities very often, and we like to have a plan. So one of the challenges with the pandemic is that you can't have a definitive plan because you need to wait to see how things evolve. However, we are anticipating that bus times will dictate bell times, and we think that we will be looking at a 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. schedule similar to this year. And that schedule may actually be in place even if we were to return for full days for next year. And then we would be able to assess the situation post-pandemic and also in terms of the recruitment of bus drivers to fulfill the bus runs. So Dylan, right now we're thinking it's the same as this year, but more to come. And that more to come may not be until August. That's when the Ministry of Education has identified, we'll find out midsummer in terms of more specific information in terms of what it will look like at secondary.
Well, yeah, actually, what about for small class placements like at Pine Ridge? Are they staying status quo for now?
For small class placements, we're actually looking at the timing, Dylan, and we're going to see if we can plan, because we know that in some instances in small class placements, there's opportunities to go into other classes. And so we're trying to see if we can match up the schedules a little bit better, but we don't have anything definitive at this time.
Okay.
I hope that helps with your understanding, Dylan, and thank you for joining us.
Well, I do want to say before I leave, like 4 days ago from this board meeting, it was my birthday, actually.
Well, we all wish you a happy birthday, Dylan.
And,
Maybe belated, but we hope you had a great birthday.
well, yeah, before I go, also, like, I was saying, speaking of vaccinations, I actually already got my vaccine earlier this month.
Definitely a double thumbs up for you on that, Dylan. We have a parent who is joining us, and I'm asking John Higgle if he could come forward. He has a question. John, are you there? There is John. Hi, John.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. I think you have a question regarding the modified school year.
I do, thank you. I was wondering if, given the extension of the strategic plan until 2023, that the review and decision on the fate of the modified program at CE Broughton would also be delayed until 2023.
Thank you, John, for that. We will go to Superintendent Davis for an answer to that question.
Hello, John. Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your question, John. So we are scheduled to have an update on all the reasonable measures that we've taken to promote C. Broughton in the fall. And we're going to bring the update at that time with all of the information that we have. And at that time, I'm going to put it to the trustees to look at all the information and to make an informed decision in terms of next steps.
Do you have a supplemental question, John?
Just yes, please, if you will, Madam Chair. Just to follow up in the, with the state of enrollment and virtual school versus in-person learning, I would hope that the board and the trustees would consider that enrollment numbers are all over the place for everything, and it's crazy times. So I would just ask that that be taken into consideration.
Superintendent Davis, did you want to speak to that?
Absolutely, John. All of that information is taken into consideration in terms of the pandemic that we're in and the situation that we're in right now. So all of that will be taken into consideration in terms of the report. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you, John. I think you have come to our boardroom, have you not?
I have indeed. I have. Thank you. I did have another. I don't know if I get two questions. I submitted two,
Okay.
or do I need to get called back in?
Submit your question.
Thank you very
Please,
much.
we'd like to hear it.
Thank you. And it kind of related to well, the previous question and Ms. Davis's answer. Given the mandate to take all reasonable steps to promote the program, and I thank you. I've seen a lot of posts on Instagram and Twitter recently promoting the program, and I appreciate that. I was wondering when the option will appear on the website when you go to search for my home school. The modified calendar program still does not appear on there.
Thank you for your question, John. When you search on the front page of the website, the modified option calendar does appear. So we will double check. So if you're going into find school, there's regular, there's secondary, there's all programs, and there's also a modified button that is there as well. And what I can tell you as well is that any DDSB or potential families who are registering, they do have that option as well when they're registering new to DDSB. We updated those pieces before our last report last time, but we're happy to double check that again. But I did go on the website and it is there at this time.
I hope that answers your two questions, John.
Not quite. I'm sorry. May I follow up to that? I'm actually on the DDSB website right now, and if I go to search for my school and I enter in an address that's not in the CE Broughton catchment area, I entered 20 Overlord Street for reference. I get the options of Pringle Creek, Anderson CVI, Julie Payette, and Donald A. Wilson. CE Broughton does not appear as one of my options. But given that it would be an option to all Durham residents, I would hope that they would be presented with that option and not have to go searching for it. So if you actually type in an address and search for available schools, CE Broughton does not appear. And I've tried several addresses throughout Durham region.
Okay, so I'd be happy to take that back to IT and double check. We did check with some addresses, but perhaps there's a little glitch and we'd be happy to double check that for you. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Moving on, we have a Durham District School Board presentation, and I'm going to go to Superintendent Nevels to introduce the SAL program. Superintendent Nevels.
Good evening. I wanted to thank both Trustee Morton and Trustee Forbes, the co-chairs of our board SAL committee, for the opportunity to share an update this evening. At this time, I would like to introduce our incredible SAL facilitator, Nicole Rands, who will lead us through a presentation about the program.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to present on supervised alternative learning and to share the successes of our students. My name is Nicole Rands, and I am the facilitator for supervised alternative learning, operating under the Student Achievement and Curriculum Department, with the guidance of Student Success Lead Monique Mueller and Superintendent of Education Stephen Nevels. Supervised alternative learning is commonly referred to by its acronym, SAL. The policies and procedures for SAL are outlined in Ontario Regulation 374-10. The target student is aged 14 to 17 years who is experiencing difficulties at school and would benefit from an alternative learning experience for a period of time. SAL is an essential part of the student success model for the most in-risk students and is used after all other in-class, in-school, and board interventions have been attempted. The focus of all SAL programs is a good outcome for each student. To support this good outcome for each student, SAL programs focus on 4 key areas: well-being, engagement, equity, and success. When students are referred to SAL, they are struggling. They may be struggling with attendance, well-being, academic progress, or all of these. Other students may face a crisis that requires support for a short time. SAL wraps the student in a team of support, creating individualized learning plans with the voice of the student included, building relationships with caring adults, creating flexible monitoring schedules to address needs, and using targeted interventions to support ongoing success. Students' individualized learning plans are approved by the SAL committee and outline the personal and academic goals of each student. In 2011, the former SALUP regulation was replaced with the new SAL regulation. Since that time, SAL students have benefited greatly from the programming options available to them. SAL has helped over 5,000 students continue their learning during challenging times. Many of these students report that without SAL in their lives, they may not have been able to continue on their pathway to graduation. The average student earns 1.5 credits during their SAL program. This means that since SAL began, over 7,800 credits have been earned by students participating in SAL. An essential reason why SAL worked so well for so many students in the Durham District School Board is the fact that we offer 3 distinct options for students under our SAL umbrella. Our most access program is the school-based SAL program that occurs within our area secondary schools. The school-based programs allow area schools to offer flexible, individualized programming to students within their own building. This option keeps students connected to their staff, their peers, and students may participate in school activities as well. 17 secondary schools offer the school-based SAL option, and 84% of SAL students participate in this option. For some students, an alternative location with more concentrated supports is recommended. These students may access the Community-Based Learning Program, also known as CBLP. Students are referred to CBLP through the school's attendance counselor and attend a specialized classroom within Durham Alternative Secondary School at either the Oshawa or Pickering campuses. CBLP offers credit earning opportunities for students at the grade 9 and 10 level, as well as a learning strategies course to increase skills. Students at CBLP may also choose to work with a SAL youth worker for additional support. When a student completes their goals at CBLP, they transition to an area school to complete their grade 11 and 12 courses. Approximately 14% of SAL students attend the CBLP program. CBLP has 48 seats available each semester and often runs with a wait list for programming. A third option is available for students who require a short-term intervention to support their goals. These students work directly with the SAL facilitator, who meets regularly with them and supports their transition to their next placement. Students may move between the options as needed while participating in SAL. The 3 program options offer choice to students and provide varying benefits to best meet the individualized need of each referred student. When we consider who these SAL students are, we see that the majority of students are 16 years of age and in grade 11. We have the fewest 14-year-olds, as these students are just beginning their time in secondary school and are often well supported in their transition from elementary school and by the student success teams in the secondary schools. Many of the students who access SAL in grade 12, who are 17 years of age, may use SAL to support their goals to graduate and/or earn credits to attend DAS or the Centers for Success to complete their diploma. In addition to age and grade, students are often referred to SAL when they face situations that make regular attendance and success at mainstream school difficult. Students report mental health concerns, relationships with adults and peers, conflict at home, financial needs, or an overwhelming feeling of disengagement. They recognize these elements as having a negative impact on their success at school. SAL programs include many protective factors that help students gain skills, form relationships, and access supports to address these additional needs. While attending their SAL program and after SAL completion, students report they feel much more hopeful about their futures and much more confident in their abilities to move forward. They also know they can access supports when they need them and that there are lots of caring adults available to help them. One of the ways we know that students benefit from SAL programs is by listening to what they say. SAL students report that they enjoy the one-to-one support and flexible options in SAL. Their voices are the best at demonstrating the positive effects that SAL programs have on the overall wellness and goal attainment of students. To highlight the student voice, some of the current CBLP students wrote, created, and produced their own videos to share with the board. As you listen to these videos, you will hear the struggles the students faced before they joined a SAL program. You will hear about the lack of confidence, disengagement, and lack of hope for their futures. As you listen to their stories, you will hear how a connection to CBLP has helped them find their identity, gain skills, experience success, and increase their overall well-being. Let's hear from Jeremy first, then Carrington.
I was invited by a teacher to talk about this, so I thought, oh, this would be super fun and a great thing to talk about, my experiences at DAS and how it's been so beneficial to me. I started DAS when I was in the first semester of grade 11, which was September of this year, September of 2020, and I have gained so much skills and knowledge. It's just tremendous. It's unbelievable. I never expected this. Before I started going to DAS, I was getting like 30s, maybe 40s. I barely passed the class. I was late almost every day. Honestly, I can't even just say almost. I was late every day, if I came at all. My attendance was worse for wear, and I didn't know who I was. I had no identity. Now, after the few months I've been here, I've grown as a person so much. It's amazing to me. My family sees that I'm happier. My friends that I've made at the school are supporting me, which I've never had before. And it's just a well-rounded experience. It's amazing. DAS has been really great for making me come out of my shell. Whereas I was a tiny little scared person in grade 9, I'm now proud to be who I am, and I'm stronger, you know? I went from being depressed in bed every single day to now I have a full-time job on top of full-time school. I'm taking 2 college courses, and I think, honestly, I don't think I would have been able to achieve this if I hadn't been put into the community I was put into. All the teachers at CBLP and DAS are amazing. They're so supportive, and they just seem genuinely happy that you come to school, which I've never experienced before, someone being happy that I was there. So it was a total, like, wake up call, that I mattered to people, which was something I never experienced before. It made me set goals for myself that I never would have even dreamed of setting or imagined in the past. For example, I thought I was going to be a minimum wage worker all my life. Now I'm getting 80s, 90s on the majority of my grades, and I'm thinking of going into medical school. I'm already in the works of going that. I've got a whole plan, and if I wasn't at DAS, I doubt that I would have come even close to that. DAS has been an amazing experience for me, and I'm so thankful for all the people that I've met and everyone that is here as well. And I'm so happy that it's created such a community. And I'm so happy I can see other people grow and experience this the same way I did, because it's wonderful to see.
Hi, you're not going to be seeing my face because, self-image. It's not that good right now, but, I'll give you something to look at while I talk. I hope that's okay. Anyways, hi. My name is Carrington. My experience has been great overall. I've struggled a lot with general motivation and keeping on top of everything that's been thrown at me. CBLP offers different ways for me to handle my work and is extremely flexible so that I can manage my tasks better than I ever had before. I'm here for recovery for math, history, and science. This is at least what I remember off the top of my head. I have a lot of progress to make, but it's easier than it would be at my home school. Todd and Jen are both wonderful, kind, understanding, and helpful. I really value how we don't move too quickly with the work. It's much easier to process and digest at a realistic rate. Other methods of solving problems, primarily math, are acknowledged and encouraged, which I love. Heather is very down-to-earth and nice to talk to. Speaking with her and my wellness nurse, Tina, who has closed my file as of late March, helped me through a rough dip in my mental health. My goals are to get my recovery credits, math and science at the very least, if not all. I do wish to return in September. I work much better here and have made a lot of good progress. Thank you. Sorry about the kerfuffle with reading.
In addition to the voices of our students, we often also hear from the voices of our parents. The SAL committee meets regularly with parents of SAL students. Parents often share the positive impact that SAL has had on their child's overall well-being. This parent, Tracy, highlights the flexibility in SAL to support her son with a chronic health condition. SAL helped her son continue his progress while he also cared for a physical condition. She acknowledges that SAL enabled him to continue and not have to force him to choose between his future and his current health. As you've just heard from our current students and a parent of a current student, SAL programs are more than just earning credits. SAL programs have a social-emotional learning focus. 70% of participating students access counseling through the board or in the community and participate in workshops, certificates, and job readiness training. The goal of all SAL programs is to support the students' overall growth so they may face their next steps with confidence. At the end of their SAL program, the majority of students use their new skills and self-awareness to return to their area school and continue their pathway to graduation. Some students move to new experiences, such as DAS or Centers for Success. 7% of students meet the requirements for graduation at the end of their SAL program. Regardless of their pathway, all students report that SAL has prepared them to approach their future with confidence. This year has been one of challenge and change, and SAL programs continue to find ways to best support some of the most vulnerable students. There are currently 183 active SAL students in the DDSB. As students return to classrooms having survived a global pandemic, SAL programs will be available to support student well-being and academic progress as needed. A heartfelt thank you to our team of professionals who support SAL programs. We are thrilled to be part of SAL and are excited for all the possibilities for future success. Thank you.
I want to thank Jeremy and Carrington for taking the time to create those videos and to share their stories with us tonight. And we welcome any questions from trustees on the program.
Questions from trustees. I see Patrice has a question. Trustee Barnes?
Thank you. I think I have more of a comment than a question, or a mixture, I guess. I'm happy that we provide different types of learning for students, because as we can tell, we're not servicing everybody in our schools. But I was sad to hear that that one student that talked about mattering and not having somebody that, not having experienced somebody being happy for him to be in a school before hitting SAL. I think that was very impactful in regards to the state of our schools and why it's important to belong. The other question I had was around the wait list, because I'm just curious as to what that wait list looks like and why we have a wait list if we have students that need this program. We were talking about the CBLP program.
Well, thank you.
Nicole?
I can speak about the CBLP waitlist. We have 3 active classrooms for CBLP. We have 2 at the Oshawa campus of DAS, and we have 1 in the Pickering location. And each class has 14 students in it, and sometimes we can move up to 16 based on need. Within that, we usually have a full classroom starting very close to each semester. We have some students who leave us and move on to other programs, or may transition in a quadmester model into another program mid-semester. But usually we sit full with students. The nice thing is students who are awaiting placement in CBLP for one of those seats to open, they can access their school-based SAL program during that time. And other students can also do individualized study and work with the SAL facilitator. So although there might not be seats available yet in the full-time CBLP program, there are other ways that SAL can be used to support the student during that waiting period.
And can I just ask a follow-up to that?
Absolutely.
And why, I'm just curious, what would be the challenge to having all the students in it? Is it just space?
Well, historically, CBLP has always been 3 classrooms. When we look at opening another classroom, I guess that would be, staffing considerations, location, placement, those types of things. Our waitlist is usually under 5 students. So it's not that it's an overwhelming waitlist. We find multiple ways to be creative to program for those students while they wait. But there has been conversations about other classes, but there's a lot of considerations that have to come in with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lundquist has her hand up.
I just want to follow up on Trustee Barnes' question because I think it's important. So I will acknowledge that I was one of the students who benefited from a SAL home-based program when I was in grade 11. And so I see this as very, very important, especially if we have students who are on a wait list. So it's good to hear that it's 5 because that indicates that you're meeting most of the demand. But what I was wondering about specifically was, what is the timing of that wait list really? So how long would a student be on that wait list waiting to get a more permanent sort of placement?
So in most instances, that wait list is just until the next semester begins. So every SAL placement is renewed or terminated at the end of every semester. So most of our students who join us in CBLP plan to be with us for 1 semester. They're looking to gain back some of those 9 and 10 compulsory credits, a lot of which are recovery credits. So the student then is able to return to their home school in grade 11, and that opens up a seat for the next student who wants to come in and have the same experience.
So is there, if I may, Madam Chair, a follow-up?
Certainly.
Sorry, I should have inquired first. So I appreciate that. I guess my question then is, are there periods of time where students, I understand that they're committed to the one semester, but presumably not every student makes the whole semester. And so spaces are open. Is there any mid-semester potential movement?
Yep. We're a continuous intake program. So whenever we have a student seat become available, that student will join us.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. I need to say that I am so thankful that Nicole, and I see Heather Hockle-Gray, our youth worker, has joined us as well. Thank you very much for such a valuable message. So to Superintendent Nevels, I thoroughly appreciate your support of this program. I also want to thank Jeremy Carrington and parent Tracy for the messages that they have provided. Trustee Thatcher, is your hand up?
Yes, it is. May I go ahead, Trustee?
Certainly.
Thank
Certainly.
you, Chair Morton, through you. Hi, Nicole and Heather. I just want to say that I just recognize and commend you for the work that you do with these kids. I've seen it firsthand. You guys are just simply amazing. But I don't think it's as important coming from me as coming from the kids. And I've heard that. I've heard it myself from the kids. They absolutely appreciate your understanding and your non-judgmental manner. So thank you very much on my behalf as well.
Thank you. So Nicole and Heather, you know that I greatly value the work that you do each and every day supporting our students. Thank you for bringing that message to us this evening. Thank you for joining us. No further comments. We will move on. Again, my thanks. Report from the Committee of the Whole in camera. I would ask Christine Thatcher to bring forward her report.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. This is the report from the Committee of the Whole of May 17th, 2021. The board approved the actions of the Committee of the Whole in camera and adopted the motions made at the Committee of the Whole in camera meeting as follows. Decisions in respect of negotiations with employees of the board, litigation affecting the board, and administrative transfers and placement. Chair Morton, this is my report. I move that the report from the Committee of the Whole in camera be received.
Thank you. So Vice Chair Thatcher has moved that report. Could I have a seconder? Thank you, Trustee Barnes. All those in favor of that report? Thank you kindly. We all love to hear good news, so we're going to turn to Director Marsh for her good news story for the system.
Thank you, Chair Morton, and there's lots of good news, and I believe the video is ready.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of DDSB students and staff, we're happy to bring you good news from across the system.
Schools across the district are hosting pop-up vaccine clinics to help hotspot communities roll up their sleeves. Pine Ridge, Dumbarton, and Valley Farm and Pickering, Bolton, Fobley and Ajax, and Maxwell Heights and Oshawa have all helped community members get their shots. We would like to also congratulate two former Pickering High School graduates who are leading the helping hand. Zain Maji and Ashish Yelkar developed a tool where residents can text their postal code to a number and receive a response within 3 closest vaccine clinics.
Recognizing that May is Speech, Language, and Hearing Month, Inclusive Student Services is running a social media campaign to promote awareness, focusing on the professionals that parents and educators can seek out for support.
2 new DDSB schools are scheduled to open this September. Administrative staff for the new unnamed North Whitby and the new unnamed North Ajax elementary schools are working hard to get the buildings ready to welcome students like us in the fall.
During Children's Mental Health Week from May 3rd to May 7th, Sean Booth, an award-winning hip-hop artist, presented Hope in Challenging Times. He invited everyone to find their greatness by opening their hearts to others, showing up for each other, and being here for a cause, not applause. The DDSB Mental Health and Wellbeing team shared helpful resources with schools. Educators took part in a week of mental health activities focused on the themes of Mindful Monday, Talk About It Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday, Thankful Thursday, and Fitness Friday. And on May 6th, schools participated in Shine Green for Mental Health by Wearing Green, a simple way to remember that student well-being and mental health is a priority.
The Durham Pride Prom took place virtually on May 7th. Each year, the event provides an end-of-the-year celebration and graduation party for the 2SLGBTQI students and their allies, with the goal of promoting diversity and inclusiveness while providing a safe place.
On April 28th, J. Clark Richardson Collegiate students in the musical theater program attended National Town Hall with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland to highlight and advocate for the arts and culture. Grade 12 student Jasmine Jagmohan Singh asked Prime Minister Justin Trudeau a question on educational arts programs post-pandemic. Thanks go out to the teacher Jeffrey White for organizing this opportunity.
Over 300 students in grades 7 to 12 joined award-winning entrepreneur and trade industry ambassador Mandy Renahan to explore the benefits of skilled trade jobs. Students also learned from the DDSB Student Achievement and Curriculum team about career pathways through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, elementary and secondary skills Ontario competitions, and achieving dual credits with the School College Work Initiative.
The Positive School Climates Department, in partnership with other local school districts, hosted Questions About Drugs, Parents Ask the Expert, a virtual panel discussion on substance use. Expert panels emphasize the building of healthy relationship with parents, frequent and clear communication, and the role modeling of responsible and healthy substance use.
Brock High School recently hosted a digital wellness program with the help of Pinewood Center and Lake Ridge Health that provided remote learning support for 130 families.
The Early Years team with Child Care and Early On Partners hosted a virtual parent session for 230 incoming junior kindergarten families. Families asked questions and presenters shared learning opportunities for our youngest learners to engage in at home in preparation for September.
As students, we are excited to be part of DDSB's Ignite Learning Culture and celebrating the excellence of the system.
As you can see, the dates of significance take us to the end of June.
Thank you to Kaylin and Tatiana from Pine Ridge Secondary School for reading this month's good news.
And Chair Morton, I'll just conclude by thanking staff for all that they do despite the additional pressures of this year, continuing to find positive opportunities for students and to students who I think have really modeled just so much care and compassion during this period and willingness to be involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Marsh. Those are very positive comments, and we are all very supportive of those. And we're going to go to Trustee Edwards for a question.
Thank you. And Director Marsh kind of summed it up. There's a lot going on and understanding that, but I just wanted to bring the board's attention that May 30th to June 5th is National Accessibility Week. And June 2nd is Red Shirt Day, which Easter Seals Canada and Easter Seals Durham chapter are promoting. And Red Shirt Day is a day where people across Canada come together and wear red in schools, workplaces, everywhere to create a visible display of solidarity for people and families living with disabilities, as well as to demonstrate their support and commitment for accessibility and inclusion of people with disabilities in Canada. So I just like to make a note that June 2nd is Red Shirt Day. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. June the 2nd, we will all wear our red shirts. Other questions, other comments? Seeing none, we certainly appreciate having students share the good news story with us. Moving on to recommended actions. The first recommended action is the report from the Standing Committee, May the 3rd. So I will go to Vice Chair Christine Thatcher for that report.
Thank you, Chair. This is my report, the Standing Committee meeting of May 3rd. The following resolution was passed at the Standing Committee on May 3rd, 2021, moved by Trustee Scott Templeton, that the 2021-22 school calendar be approved. I move that the board now receive the minutes and approve the actions of the May 3rd, 2021 Standing Committee and adopt the resolution that was passed.
Thank you, Trustee Thatcher. We have the motion on the floor. I need a seconder. Thank you, Trustee Templeton. All those in favor? Thank you kindly. Our second recommended action, we have a motion coming forward from Trustee Lundquist regarding naming or renaming of schools. I will turn to Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the motion is in the materials, although I would like to add a section. So it's the provisions of section 5.1 and 5.2, and I'd like to include 5.3 in there as well. So I'm not going to speak to the motion at great length. I just would like to say a couple of things. So what precipitated this was a reach out from several parents and from some staff members at both of the schools that are referenced in the motion. And it seemed to me that in accordance with the school naming policy and the amendments that it made sense to actually begin engaging in this discussion. So, you know, I know that I have particular views and my views may not be representative of the community's views, but I would like to say just a couple of things on this. So I am moving the motion really pursuant to the naming of schools policy, and in doing so, I understand that reconsideration of school names is not without controversy, but I am confident that the process and then the ensuing discussions around school identity are really important. So on the one hand, we have a school named after a father of Confederation, who was also a primary architect of the residential school system and the Indian Act, and whose policy decisions are grounded in white supremacy that did result in children being ripped from their homes and families in the name of education to face disease, violence, malnutrition, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, and death. And the history stands, in my view, in really stark contrast to the board's equity work and our stated mission to build inclusive learning communities for all of our students, including Indigenous students in the system. On the other hand, we have a school named after former Governor General and astronaut Julie Payette, who also has tremendous accomplishments, but who has been found to have created a toxic work environment that was rife with verbal abuse, bullying, and harassment. And that kind of behavior has a really profound impact on those who've been subject to it, both in schools and in workplaces. And so I raise both of those schools in my motion. I think it is notable, though, that there is an online petition calling for the renaming of Payette. It has been signed by 1,140 people as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I make no assumptions about what the views of the community will be. The only thing I am assuming in bringing this motion forward is that these discussions are important and that they will be appropriately contextualized against the backdrop of the board's stated commitments, its goals, its culture, and our future. So with that, I would like to move the motion that you'll find in the materials. So I move that one or more of the renaming criteria set out in section 5.4 of the policy are engaged with respect to each of Julie Payette Public School and Sir John A. Macdonald Public School, and therefore that a school naming committee be established for each school in accordance with the provisions of 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 of the policy and the terms of naming of schools procedure. Thank you, Chair Morton.
Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. We need a seconder, and I see Trustee Brainy has his hand up. Trustee Brainy, would you like to second this motion?
Yes, Trustee Morton would.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to this motion, Trustee Brainy?
Just quickly, I commend Trustee Lundquist for putting this forward. I know that myself and many of us have certainly received a number of calls from members of the community, in particular in my community in Pickering with Sir John A. I'm pleased that if this motion is passed, that it will be taken to the community for consultation and have them weigh in on that decision, which I think is very important to include them in any decision that's being made regarding any of these name changes. So I'll leave it at that. I think it's like I said, we've heard many we've had many calls from the community for quite a while, and I do believe that we're going down the right course of action by having the community weigh in and make a decision on this and help us do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We are opening this up for discussion, and I see another Pickering trustee has his hand in the air, and that would be Trustee Crawford.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I had trouble with my mute. Anything that'll bring something to the community for discussion is a good idea, so that's why I'm in favor of this.
Are there other trustees who would like to comment on this motion? I see Trustee Stone with her hand up. Trustee Stone.
Thank you, Trustee Morton, and through you, I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to put it into two pieces. Trustees may have a different feeling about Julie Payette than they do about McDonald, and so I'd like them voted on in separate motions.
So you would like to bring forward an amendment suggesting that the original motion would be divided into two. Correct. One would reflect Julie Payette, the other would deal with John A. McDonald. Am I correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Trustee Morton, if I may. So that motion is a division of a question, just so we understand the framework we're under rather than it being amended. It's a motion to divide the question. The motion needs to be seconded and it's not debatable, and it would pass on a majority vote, in my opinion.
Could you repeat that, Council Carter?
Just for your guidance, Chair Morton, obviously this is your decision to make, but I believe the motion is a motion to divide the question.
Yes.
Into two separate pieces. So yes. The first question for you to decide is the question divisible? In my opinion, it is. And then the question is, how does the question ultimately get decided? It gets decided by a majority vote of the trustees. The motion needs to be seconded, and the discussion on the motion, it's not a debatable motion. If it passes by a majority, the question is divided.
Thank you. Trustee Crawford, your hand is up.
That's just a second Trustee Stone's amendment.
Thank you. So we have an amendment to divide the original motion. We will vote on that. And I would ask you to use the reactions at the bottom. The green check mark would indicate to us that you are supporting that amendment. Could you please go to either the green check mark or the red X to indicate your support or lack of support for that? Thank you. If somebody could somebody help me with the counting, because I'm not seeing everyone with a green check mark or a red X. Donna, I don't see, okay. Council Cotter, this motion has passed, am I correct?
On my count, I believe it did pass. So there was Trustee Stone, Trustee Crawford, Trustee Barrett, Trustee Barnes, yourself. That's 5, I believe.
Rob is saying that there were 5 yeses and 4 noes. We do have 10 trustees here.
There's 6 yeses.
Okay, Christine Thatcher, we looked over here for hers. So that motion does pass. We will be dividing the original into 2. Council Cotter, should we ask first for the Julie Payette?
I think it doesn't matter which goes first. It's a divided question. They each need to be considered separately. That's in your discretion, Chair Morton.
Okay, then let's consider the Julie Payette, the Whitby School. If you are in favor of that motion applying to Julie Payette, please indicate with a green check mark.
Excuse me, can I just ask a question?
Certainly.
I thought after the amendment, is there still discussion on the motions? Not a vote yet. There should still be discussion on the motion.
Yeah, it was only, and to clarify through you, Chair Morton, to clarify my advice on that, it was only the question of whether the motion was divisible. It's not debatable. Now, each motion is individually debatable.
Okay, so let's debate the motion regarding the division. That was
Madam, just could we just have trustees take the check marks down prior to the, if we could? Thank you.
That's a good idea. Your check marks or your red X's are taken down. Open for discussion.
Chair Morton, just to clarify, so the discussion currently, from my understanding, is you're discussing Julie Payette's renaming, and that's what trustees are debating prior to the question being called. Just want to make sure everyone's on the same page.
It was my understanding that we are going to debate the amendment.
No,
the amendment, so through you, Chair Morton. So the question has been divided. So now there's two motions. So the first motion is to set up a naming, to determine that the naming policy has been engaged and to establish the naming committee under the procedure for Julie Payette.
Okay, so discussion will apply to the Julie Payette question. Trustee Crawford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, my main purpose here is to get this out into the public, and so I would support it on this particular one. We're going to debate them separately. I might feel different about the other one, but like I say, my main purpose is to get this out in the public, so I'm in favor of it going forward.
Thank you. Are there other comments or other questions? Trustee Stone.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just a comment on Julie Payette, and to not remember the accomplishments that people have made. And I wonder if we take the exceptionalities with the flaws of human nature. So Julie Payette's I didn't hear anything from her. There was no personal explanation from her as to what happened. It was one-sided. We hear only one side of this argument. So I think that that's unfair to her with the other compliments that she has as an astronaut, first female, French. I mean, she's done incredible things in her life. I don't know if she has mental health issues. I don't know what the problem was behind that. She wasn't allowed to speak. So that's just my comment on Julie Payette. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stone. Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. I wanted to just clarify that with the striking of the committees that goes out to discussion, right? Once the committees are Okay, so this will be open up to community's feedback and to be examined before a decision is made. Okay, thank you.
Council Cotter, would you like to address the next steps?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Or I see Director Marsh has taken her mute off. Director Marsh.
Well, in terms of the renaming policy, I think Associate Director Wright is happy to answer any questions you have related to that policy. It was the one that he had brought forward previously. But yes, the decision is to launch the potential renaming consultation, and then that would come back to board.
Associate Director Wright, did you want to speak to that?
I think the process has been highlighted, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if I have anything to add at this time, other than if these motions pass this evening, a naming committee will be struck. That naming committee will either come back with a recommendation to change the name in accordance with the policy or not change the name in accordance with the policy. The procedure highlights the consultation that will take place with the naming committee.
Thank you. Trustee Barnes, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I also just want to check, will there be two committees? Depends, because it's two different communities as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Lundquist, you have a question.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to really clarify that, so I don't agree about some of the things that were said about Julie Payette. I think she had an opportunity to defend herself. There was an investigation, but I think it's neither here nor there in some respects, because this is really about, is the policy triggered such that this should go back to the community for a discussion? I don't think we're at the stage of debating what that decision is or whether the school name changes, but I do think that it's important to recognize that this motion is really to bring it to the community so that the community can engage in what I think are really important discussions.
Thank you. I see no other hands, so we will move this to a vote. We are now looking at establishing a renaming committee for Julie Payette Public School in Whitby. I'm going to ask Council Cotter to help me with the count. Again, go to your reactions, and I'd like to see the green check marks or the red X.
The problem with the check marks is they drop off.
That's correct, but I can see that this motion has passed. That motion is carried. Thank you.
Maybe
Now
it's
let's
better to use the hands and then yes with the hands and then no with the hands.
I would agree. If we could use the hands under raise hand under the reactions button rather than the check mark, they will stay.
Then we'll do that for the next one. Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, it is funny that yours and Paul Crawford stay on forever and ever and ever and never get turned off. And the rest of us, like Nikki's, just disappears. And so, yeah, just the hands at work. So.
Okay, so Trustee Crawford, if you could take your green check mark down.
My hand's down too. My hand is not up forever and ever.
Okay.
With all due respect, Trustee Crawford, your green check mark is still up. I didn't mention a hand, so I don't appreciate, I wasn't being in jest. I'm just talking about being able to just have some clarity on what's happening. So
I think we're seeing different things because I don't see any check marks up at all.
I see Trustee Crawford's check mark still on his name.
Check mark as well. Yeah.
So we are seeing different.
That's because I was busy protecting myself against ever and ever.
Moving on to the second part of that motion. It was moved by Trustee Lundquist, seconded by Trustee Brainy. Do we have, and we are now dealing with John A. Macdonald Public School in Pickering. Questions or comments? Trustee Brainy.
Thank you, Chair Morton. I'm just going to keep it short and sweet and just say that I will be supporting the request from the community to have a consultation on this issue.
Thank you. Other comments, other questions? Because this is your motion, Trustee Lundquist, would you like to speak to it one more time?
No, I think I mean, I've said why I think it's important in terms of our equity work, in terms of our commitment to all of the students in the system. And so I will leave it at that, Chair Morton. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands up, we'll go to our reactions, but this time we will raise our hand and hopefully we'll be able to see that and be extremely accurate. That definitely is a better way. That motion is carried. Thank you kindly. And from now on, we'll use the raised hands. The next recommended action, we are going to go to Associate Director Wright. We're going to talk about the trustee expense policy. David Wright.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. An updated copy of the trustee expense policy as well as the procedure are included in your package this evening, along with the associated report starting on page 34. I believe the concerns that have been raised in prior conversations have been addressed. There is a recommendation included for your consideration, and if you have any questions at all through you, Madam Chair, I will try and answer them. Thank you.
Trustee Barrett.
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to move the recommendations. We have discussed this policy and the revisions to the policy, David, probably longer than our expense reports have been sitting on a table somewhere. So I'm moving the motion and the recommendations. We have had ample time to discuss it. And so I'm pleased to make the motion on this.
Thank you very much. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you.
My hand is up.
I think Scott Templeton's hand went up first. So seconded by Scott Templeton. Thank you. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll ask you to vote, and this time we're going to use those yellow hands. So all in favor of, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the revisions to the trustee expense policy. And again, this motion is carried. Thank you kindly. Moving on to Associate Director David Wright. And we're going to ask you this time to talk about the community use of schools policy.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. The report starts on page 52 and is accompanied by the updated copies of the policy and the procedure. The concerns that have been raised in prior conversations, I believe, have been addressed. However, there was a comment made about the interface with the public booking system. So just to highlight, we continue to work on that. Administration will ensure that the interface meets accessibility standards, and we'll work over time to make the changes where we're able that were suggested in terms of the information that will be available to prospective users when booking sites. So with that, there is a recommendation included for your consideration, and through you, Madam Chair, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking at the recommendation, which is found on page 53. Trustee Crawford, your hand is up.
Just for a question, or is it too soon for the question?
Well,
is it in front of us now?
And I would ask for a motion to support that recommendation.
Well, I'll move that.
Thank you, Trustee Crawford. Could we have a seconder? Trustee Edwards, open for questions, comments.
Now, can I ask my question?
You certainly may,
Yeah,
Trustee Crawford.
I'm all in favor of the report and public using. I was a little confused about liability. That's our biggest concern. Is it that the people using the facility have to take out insurance, or just what is the coverage as far as liability is concerned? Can you clarify that, Superintendent?
Again, Trustee Crawford, through you, Madam Chair. We do offer an option to purchase an insurance certificate for users, really at a minimal cost through our insurer, OSB, or we require proof of insurance and named as indemnified parties if individuals or organizations have their own insurance. So we ensure every user of our facilities is insured.
So there's complete coverage. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments for Associate Director Wright? Seeing none, we have a motion in front of us. It has been seconded. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the revisions to the community use of schools policy. Those in favor, please raise that yellow hand. And again, that motion is carried. Thank you for the support that you have provided. Moving on, and we're going to go back to Associate Director Wright to talk about the former Ritson Public School.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to welcome and introduce Christine Nanscoville, our Chief Facilities Officer, who is going to present this report to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. The report this evening is for information, and it's further to the in-camera report that was presented to you on April 19th, declaring Ritson Road Public School surplus to the board's needs. The disposition process started the next day on April 20th, with the prescribed organizations having 90 days to declare an interest. That would take us to July 19th. If there is a declaration of interest, that party would have another 90 days to make an offer to purchase, and that would take us to October 18th. If there is no declaration of interest by July 19th, the property will be put on the open market. Staff will report back to you in September with an update, as that date in July happens during the summertime when we're not reporting to you. So we will definitely report back to you in September with an update. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Trustee Barrett, you have a question?
Not a question, Madam Chair, but I support the recommendation as much as it's disturbing to be able to look at the history. You know, I've walked through that school on many occasions. I know we've had the conversation before. There is, you know, it's very unfortunate. I'm all about preserving history, but unfortunately, this school is not set up for today's standards. So I certainly support the recommendation to be able to move forward as outlined in the report.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, but I'm going to go back to Trustee Crawford, not Crawford, I'm sorry, Trustee Barrett. Even though this is an information item, it is included under recommended action. So I'm suggesting that the former Ritson Public School circulation of surplus site regulation 444/98 report that was provided to trustees for information be received. Would you make that motion, Trustee Barrett?
I'll certainly be glad to do that, Chair Morton.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Crawford. Those in favor, please raise a hand. Again, we will definitely support this. Thank you for your help on that.
Chair, before you move on, I am just curious, does Ritson have a heritage designation? Was it?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, there is a heritage designation on the original portion of the school.
So it would have to be kept, that original portion, if whoever buys it?
That would be something, and again, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, that anybody in the future that purchases that property would have to go through the City of Oshawa for any approvals for any improvements, which could also include a demolition, but that would all be through the City of Oshawa that they would have to work with any approvals.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving to Trustee Brainy.
Sorry, Trustee Morton, I don't want to speak. It's I didn't follow Trustee Barrett's instructions and take my hand down. So I will.
Thank
You
you.
rebel.
I see no other hands up, so we will move on. Another recommended action, and we're going to talk about our capital priorities program report. And we will go back to David Wright. David.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair. And again, it's my pleasure to welcome Christine to present this report as well.
Thank you, and thank you through you, Madam Chair. Again, this is an information report, and sorry that it's showing up as under an action item, but it is an information report. The ministry is requesting capital projects by May 21st, and the report does outline the criteria that staff have to use in developing the projects. Section 4.6 does outline what our submission will be. There are 5 projects, not in any particular order, but include the unnamed North Oshawa Secondary School, an unnamed Seton Public School, unnamed West Whitby Public School, unnamed North Oshawa Public School, and a 6-room addition to Clara Hughes Public School. And I would be happy to take any questions you would have this evening.
Thank you, Christine. Questions or comments? I'm not seeing any. Thank you. Again, this was included under recommended action, even though it was for our information. So I'm suggesting that we have a motion that would read that the Capital Priorities Program report that was provided to trustees for information be received. Could I have somebody move that report? Thank you, Trustee Edwards, seconded by Trustee Crawford. If there's no further discussion, I will ask you to raise a hand. Thank you. That motion is carried. And I definitely have learned my lesson on the green check marks versus raising of hands. Thank you all. Moving on to information items, I'm going to ask Trustee Edwards to talk about SEAC.
Thank you, Chair Morton. The report from the Special Education Advisory Committee meeting of March the 18th can be found starting on page 106, and that is my report.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. Comments or questions for Donna? Trustee Thatcher. You're muted, Trustee Thatcher.
Do you need a seconder? I was just
no.
The motion. No.
No.
All right. I'm
you.
still supportive of that.
Thank you. Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. I had a note that I can't find now, but it was there was a note in there where Donna had given a report from the board to SEAC. And there was a line that read, there's a possibility of a 5th hire, but I didn't understand what the 5th hire was. It was in the section that says report from Trustee Edwards to board. I think it's like the 4th to last line. I can't find my my stuff. Can you find that, Donna? It said potential of a higher something.
I'll see if I can find it. I'm not 100% sure.
So it was, I'll tell you in a minute. I'm there. My apologies to the board. I had this queued. Somebody's thing is on. Sorry, Donna, I will follow up with it because I can't find it in here. I noted it, but I don't have it anymore.
Thank you, Patrice. Any other comments or questions for Trustee Edwards?
Oh, I found it.
Back to you.
So it was section, just above section 9 that says presentation. And the line reads, possible increase to a 5th year for high and concerns about the cost of technology during the pandemic at virtual standing. I wasn't sure what the possibility of a 5th year of high was. I'm not sure if Donna know what that.
It was just we were asking questions around the possibility of the returning of students for the 5th year, those and the need of and the needs of those students at this point in time in order to complete their requirements. A lot of our very high need students stay till their 21st birthday, but other students who get special education services or support, we're just concerned that there is a very high, because that is being the indication across other boards where people are returning for at least another, if you wish, another semester.
Okay, so I wanted to clarify. So it should just say a 5th year for high school then. Is that what it should say? Okay.
Yes, that's what it should say.
Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Barnes. Thank you, Trustee Edwards. Moving on, I'm going to go back to Trustee Barnes for the OPSPA report.
Thank you. I just have a short one. Well, maybe not so short. We have, so OPSPA speaker series will be on May 20th at noon. So it's the lunch and learn opportunity. They'll be showcasing and talking about the observations, preliminary research, and what the future of education might look like post-pandemic. So that will be an interesting one. Applications are open.
Patrice, you're muted.
Sorry. Applications are open for students trustees for the Student Trustee Leadership Scholarship. Applications close on the 24th. OPSPA has created and is sharing with all boards a student survey in an effort to collect information to provide advocacy data for the ministry for the future of education around online learning. I've shared with trustees 4 motions that are being voted on at the AGM. I'll just briefly review what they are so trustees can just take a look at them and give me a feedback on the thought. There is one motion is around advocating for the ministry to provide school boards with dedicated funding for different arrays of needs as is required for each board. So covering things like additional teaching staff to provide remedial support, additional mental health staff, additional funding for professional development, for education staff to focus on gap closing and mental health supports. The other motion is around the Ministry of Education with the Education Equity Secretariat as a priority to undertake a commitment to all school boards to fund, in addition to the 2021-22 GSNs, an additional grant in the amount of no less than 2 full-time equivalent research officers for school boards to use in their data collection and analysis as local needs may dictate. such as hiring staff, funding third-party expertise, funding systems, infrastructure, and covering costs associated with community and stakeholders engagement. The other one is to advocate to the Ministry of Education to mandate learning expectations that focus on the over 400 year of Black presence in Canada with the Ontario Social Studies and History curriculum, that the new learning expectations be created with Black experts and educators, and that during this time, the curriculum is being updated. The ministry will make it available to all boards for the history courses and resources that are being created to be used by teachers. I know that one was a mouthful and kind of to that one. And the fourth one is to revise the regulation 462/97 or provide an alternative mechanism in order for boards to have a process to add an additional funded designated Indigenous trustees. So I emailed trustees all those details. So if you could just take a look at those and let me know your thoughts and input on that. And that is my report.
Thank you. When would you like that feedback?
The AGM is in June, so we'll go to the end of May.
Thank you, Trustee Barnes. Comments or questions regarding OPSPA report? Seeing none. Looking at our correspondence, there are two letters, one from the York Region District School Board, the other one from Thames Valley. And I definitely would encourage you to read those letters, both addressed to the minister. Is there any other business? Seeing none, then consider this meeting adjourned and have a good evening. Good night, everybody.